We've got details of Bryce Underwood's flip to Michigan and LSU's path forward without him. It's Locked on LSU. Let's get it.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the best ways to help us grow is to leave your comments below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get the season started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So Bryce Underwood has flipped his commitment from LSU to Michigan. We will talk about the impact of that commitment on this 2025 class. We will also go deeper into LSU's now very uncertain future at the quarterback position. But I want to start with some information that I have about Bryce Underwood's flip. It's a little cumbersome and there's no real obvious place to start, so I'll just kind of start. Immediately within the hour of Bryce Underwood's flip, we recorded an episode here. And while I was recording that episode, I got a text message that detailed Bryce Underwood getting a $12 million offer from Michigan. And that's ultimately what did it. By the way, if my child or your child got a $12 million offer to go play college football, I would encourage my child, and I would assume you would encourage your child to accept it as well. One of the things I was curious about is how that would be structured. As I understand it, Michigan did, in fact, offer a 4-year, $12 million deal. So $3 million per year, totaling $12 million. Now, I can't say that I believe Bryce Underwood intends on playing 4 years of college football. But if he does, that's $12 million and $3 in his first year. LSU's offer was very competitive. LSU's offer, as I'm told, was also a 4-year, $6 million deal. LSU was prepared to pay Bryce Underwood $1.5 million per season. I can tell you flatly that a conversation that I had on Friday, LSU's offer for Bryce Underwood was actually at $1 million per year. So sometime between Friday and Thursday, last Friday and Thursday, in those 6 days, LSU felt the need to up their offer to Bryce Underwood. And I can understand why Bryce Underwood would continue playing that until the very end, until he could make as much money as he possibly could. What I don't know yet is if Michigan made a take it or leave it offer. That's to say, if Michigan said, we've continued to go up on our offer, almost like if you ever watched the show Shark Tank, where maybe a shark will make an offer, say, this is the offer, but you have to tell me right now. You can't listen to anybody else. And you have to make a split decision. And it feels very much like that because the conversation that I had shortly after this announcement from Bryce Underwood was that on Thursday, LSU and their attorneys were speaking with Bryce Underwood's attorneys on the details of the deal. And this was late Thursday afternoon. And not early evening, but late Thursday afternoon. And so then shortly after 5 o'clock Central Time is when Adam Schefter broke the news. So it just doesn't make an awful lot of sense that within a matter of 2 hours, Bryce Underwood's attorney is negotiating terms with LSU. And then here comes a graphic and a breaking news that he's leaving, that he's flipping his commitment. I know there's this feeling from LSU fans about commitment from boosters and all that sort of thing to winning. I would like to remind you, if you pull back and actually take perspective, LSU is prepared to offer a player who has not taken a snap of college football $1.5 million per year. Will Campbell, your 3-year starter at left tackle, who's about to be a first-round pick in the draft, was your highest-paid player this past year from the collective at $500,000. You were willing to pay a player that hadn't taken a snap in college football 3 times what you're paying your best player this year. Yes, there was commitment, and yes, there was buy-in. You just didn't have as much money as Michigan did. And so there's a big question about how you compete going forward, and we'll delve into that. But the reality is there aren't going to be many opportunities where LSU is going after the number one player in the country who's from outside of Louisiana, happens to be at a position of need for the in-state school, which also happens to have massive, massive coffers and are facing a devastatingly bad season the year after winning the national championship. So maybe motivated by that embarrassment to go spend on a quarterback, especially one in-state that's the number one player in the country. There's just a lot of circumstance there that may not be repeated. But that's what I know as of now, is that LSU's offer was 4 years, $6 million, 1.5 per. And when that Michigan $10.5 million offer was out there, the variance in what LSU and Michigan were offering wasn't significant enough to where Bryce Underwood was going to flip because of all the reasons that he stated that he loved LSU and wanted to play at LSU. But when you start getting on double the money and $12 million, then it becomes almost impossible to ignore. I don't blame Bryce Underwood for taking the money in any way. My question is now, what does LSU look like in the future at quarterback? And that's what I want to talk about as we continue, and not only at quarterback in the immediate and distant future, but also what is the impact of this 2025 class of Bryce Underwood's flip? And I have some thoughts on that, and we'll do that coming up here. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Man, Prize Picks is fun and it's easy to play. If you haven't tried Prize Picks, what are you doing? Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And right now, Prize Picks, it is so great. You can win up to 100 extra money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. You can learn more at Prize Picks. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. I want to talk about LSU's future at quarterback. The most obvious answer right now is Garrett Nussmeier for 2025. You need Garrett Nussmeier to return. And I know there are some of you that are sitting there today rolling your eyes and who aren't thrilled with the way it's gone over the last 3 games with Garrett Nussmeier. But this is not an opinion that I am fabricating today after the Bryce Underwood news. I have been very consistent that I would always rather a 5th-year senior with a year of starts under his belt than a true freshman. We can look at a laundry list of young quarterbacks that don't pan out early in their careers. I've given you the example of Jackson Arnold. This is the best one. Dylan Gabriel was at Oklahoma, won 10 games. They kick him out because they want to start the 5-star redshirt freshman, not even a true freshman, a redshirt freshman, and Jackson Arnold gets benched. I mean, we can look at a laundry list of players who were highly rated, come in, don't have immediate success. There is a reason why someone like Trevor Lawrence winning a national championship as a freshman at Clemson was the first since it happened at Oklahoma some 40 years prior. Because true freshmen stepping in and starting usually doesn't work out so great. Again, I'm not suggesting that long-term Bryce Underwood is a bad option. Long-term, Underwood absolutely is the option you want. However, there are two things that can both be true. They're not mutually exclusive. Garrett Nussmeier can be your better option for 25, and Bryce Underwood can be a better long-term option. The question for LSU now, with Underwood off the board, is if Nussmeier's there in 25, how do you compensate in the future? And that's what I want to spend some time on right now. You've got Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley, and A.J. Swan. I'm going to assume Garrett Nussmeier comes back. All accounts are that his dad wants him to come back. They're anticipating Garrett Nussmeier coming back. Great. After Garrett Nussmeier, though, Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley, A.J. Swan. My assumption is one of those guys will leave. I don't have any inside information. I'm not telling you I know anything. I want to be very clear about that. I am just looking at precedent in this day and age in college football. Jaden Daniels made the decision to return in 2023. Walker Howard left. When you signed Jaden Daniels out of the portal in 2022, Miles Brennan retired from football. Go back to a different era. In 2018, you bring in Joe Burrow from Ohio State, Lowell Narcisse, Justin McMillan, both leave. It's just the nature of the position. It's hard to believe Nussmeier, Collins, Hurley, Swan are all back next year. You want Nuss back, but I would assume at least one of those guys would leave. And because now you don't have a quarterback in this freshman class for 2025, and I don't know that you have the opportunity to add one, by the way, I think you look at the transfer portal to see if you can go add some kind of depth. Maybe a transfer, kind of like what you had this past year with A.J. Swan, someone who can just provide you depth. For what it's worth, in a somewhat weird twist, and I don't know that this is anything that would even be considered, but the highest rated uncommitted quarterback in the country is Carter Smith. Carter Smith's out of the state of Florida. He's a 4-star, the number 15 quarterback in the country. Carter Smith had been committed to Michigan. Decommitted from Michigan when they continued their pursuit of Bryce Underwood, and now he is thought to be a Wisconsin lean, but wouldn't that be something if LSU went and got in the mix for a guy like Carter Smith? Again, we'll put that on the back burner. Haven't heard anything of the like. But I think what you have to be willing to do is go sign a quarterback out of the portal. And if I'm being completely honest with you, and if you're being honest with yourself, as we look around college football today, the best programs are quarterbacked by transfers. Do you want to look at the top 10 teams in the country? Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, transfer. Ohio State, Will Howard, transfer. Texas, Quinn Ewers, transfer. Indiana, ranked 5th in the country. Rourke is a transfer. Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, transfer. Miami, Cam Ward, transfer. Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, transfer. My point is, in telling you that, you have a much better chance of winning. And this isn't my opinion. Like, I'm sharing with you the top 10 in the country right now. The exceptions are Jalen Milroe at Alabama. I mean, it's uncommon to find the guy that signs with your school, stays there, and becomes great. Drew Aller at Penn State would be the other one in the top 10. Carson Beck at Georgia. But that's the exception. The rule has become transfers win. And you can win without one of the top quarterbacks in the country. And I want to be so clear. I am not sunshine pumping. I am not telling you, you're fine without Bryce Underwood. I'm not telling you, no biggie. That's not what I'm saying in any way. You want Bryce Underwood. Everybody said, transcendent player. You invested 3 years worth of recruiting, all these resources into getting Bryce Underwood here. And 2 weeks before signing day, it's not going to work out. That sucks. There's no other way to say it. So I am not sunshine pumping. What I'm trying to do is say, what is a legitimate path forward for LSU to win that doesn't include Bryce Underwood? Well, I just gave you 7 of the top 9 teams in the country that are all starting transfer quarterbacks. When I look at the top quarterbacks in the country from last year, DJ Lagway, Julian Sayin, Dylan Raiola, those are the top 3 from a year ago. Tell me if you notice a trend. 2023, Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Nico Iamaleava, Jackson Arnold. You noticing a trend? Let's keep going. 2022, tell me if you get the trend. Cade Klubnik, Ty Simpson, Drew Aller, Connor Wegman. You noticing a trend? Let's keep going. 2021, Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams, won a Heisman, didn't win a championship. Sam Heward, Brock Vandegrift, Kyle McCord. You noticing a trend? Let's go back. 2020, Bryce Young, DJU, CJ Stroud, Harrison Bailey. These are the top quarterbacks in the country in their respective classes. Noticing a trend? I've yet to name one that's won a national championship. Let's go back to 2019. Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Graham Mertz. Noticing a trend? 2018. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, JT Daniels, DTR, Joey Gatewood. Y'all, I could do this all day. The point is, I got to go back to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence to find one of the top quarterbacks in the country that won a national championship during their time in college. Lawrence did it as a freshman. Got back to the game, didn't win another one. Point is, it is proven in this model in college football, as it stands today, you are better with a veteran transfer quarterback than the high-priced, investing all of the money and resources into the high-priced freshman. Do I want Bryce Underwood? You darn right I do. Does LSU have a path to win without him? Yes. Clearly they do. So, number one is you got to get Garrett Nussmeier back. And you got to make sure you develop him in the way that Jaden Daniels developed year over year, that Joe Burrow developed from year 4 to year 5, that Zach Mettenberger developed from year 4 to year 5. That's what you have to make sure happens with a guy like Garrett Nussmeier going from 2024 to 2025 if he comes back. And if he doesn't come back, you are all in on the transfer portal to find a starting quarterback the same way you did Jaden Daniels, the same way Riley Leonard's a one-year mercenary at Notre Dame. Look around the country and find one-year mercenary quarterbacks that have starting experience. And you got a pocketbook to spend. Let's hope Nussmeier comes back. It makes it easier. But if he doesn't, you've got to go get a starting quarterback out of the portal because you're not going to come off a season like LSU's having right now and go into next year with Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley, and AJ Swan as your only options. It's not realistic. It's the same way as when Brian Kelly showed up and went and got Jaden Daniels, and I told you then. They weren't bringing Daniels in to sit. They were bringing in a guy who had starting quarterback experience in the Power 5, Power 4 now. And they would do the same thing if Nussmeier doesn't come back. I have no idea who that might be. But hope Nuss comes back. If he doesn't, you get your starter for 2025 in the portal, and then you see where it may take you because it's a giant unknown. But I think one thing's for certain. If Nussmeier comes back, one of those others, Collins, Hurley, Swan, will leave for this year. So where can you go find some depth? It's a big question for LSU heading into 2025. Now, what about the 2025 class with Underwood leaving? What's the impact? I have some thoughts, and this might be the thing that's a smidge controversial, and we'll get to it next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Z-Biotics. With Bryce Underwood flipping, a lot of y'all might be having a drink today. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. So here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember, make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel better tomorrow. So make sure you try Z-Biotics. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and to get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at checkout for 15% off. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So with Bryce Underwood out, there's this general fear among LSU fans, and I'm certainly concerned over the staff as well, about what may happen with the rest of this class. Guys like Harlem Berry tweeted a short time after the announcement that they were not going to answer questions about Bryce Underwood. Jakeem Stewart, 5-star defensive tackle from New Orleans, tweeted he had been re-offered by Michigan just a short time after Bryce Underwood's flip. So make no mistake, Michigan is pot committed, and they are going to do what they can to polish off an even better class now with Bryce Underwood in tow. Bryce Underwood was the biggest fish in the pond, and not having him in this class is massive. It also doesn't negate the other talent that you have, provided you can keep it. So DJ Pickett and Cade Phillips are 2 5-star cornerbacks. Harlem Berry is a 5-star #1 running back in the country. That's 3 5-stars. Karius Kern is a 4-star interior offensive lineman that our friend Shea Dixon from On3 the Bengal Tiger believes will get his 5th star by the time this class is over. That would be 4. And Jakeem Stewart is a 5-star who's still out there and very much in on LSU. That would be 5 if you land Jakeem Stewart. 5 5-stars. Again, if Kern gets his 5th star and if you land Stewart. But that's what's still out there. And that would be the most 5-stars in one class that you will have had. Here's the point that needs to be understood by every LSU fan watching this and that I believe everyone associated with LSU football already knows. You have got to get better at the line of scrimmage. Look at LSU. Let's be honest about this team right now. We have talked all season about LSU's inability to run the football. We have talked all season. People have asked about the lack of physicality. We have talked all season about LSU's inability to stop the run. We knew interior defensive line was going to be a problem last year. You lost Wingo and Smith to the draft and Jordan Jefferson. You got Jacoby and Guillory back, which was a huge boost, but you lost him in the second game. But even with him, you knew that was such a weak spot that Brian Kelly openly said they were going to attack the portal to get interior defensive linemen. You didn't do it in the first portal window because you missed. Because you thought Guillory or Wingo, and Smith were going to come back. You at least had a chance to get them. And when you didn't, you had to go ham in the second portal window, and you couldn't get Dominic Williams or Simeon Barrow. And you settled on JVR Suggs, who's been a nice player, but a rotational player. You have got to go address the offensive line and the defensive line. Mentioned Jakeem Stewart. I'll tell you, LSU's offer for Jakeem Stewart isn't quite at $1 million, but it's close. You now have $1.5 million to spend this year. An extra $1.5 million to spend this year. And by the way, LSU already has money allocated for the portal. Offensive line, defensive line, safety, receiver, tight end, whatever they need. They've got money already allocated. Well, now you've got an extra $1.5 million that you had earmarked for Bryce Underwood that just came available. I had a conversation with someone familiar with this process at LSU, and they identified 3 people. They said there's 3 players we got to get. Bryce Underwood, DJ Pickett, Jakeem Stewart. Well, Underwood's out. DJ Pickett's still committed, and Jakeem Stewart is out there. Can you go land Jakeem Stewart? A massive, disruptive interior defensive lineman. You got to go get him. What's it going to cost? Don't know. Don't care. A year ago, LSU was way too reserved spending. They weren't nearly as active in that first portal window as they needed to be, and it clearly hurt them. They became desperate in the second portal window, and they ended up sitting on their hands. You got to go spend to make sure you get Jakeem Stewart. I want to remind you something. Jaden Daniels is as dynamic a college quarterback as we have seen in this era. I don't need to run through the stats, but you all watched it a year ago. He played on a team that lost 3 games. What if LSU had invested in the portal and the defensive line? That side of the ball. Remember Lamar Jackson in 2016? Again, another dude that was so transcendent and so awesome that he won the Heisman Trophy despite his team losing 3 games, similar to Daniels. Do you remember what happened when Lamar Jackson faced LSU in that Citrus Bowl? LSU won it 29-9. You know what Lamar Jackson did that day? He was 10 of 27 for 153 yards. He ran, Lamar Jackson, 2-time NFL MVP Lamar Jackson, ran 26 times for 33 yards. Why? Arden Key, Devon Gottschall, Kendall Beckwith, Deion Jones, Duke Riley, Jamal Adams, Tre'Davious White, Dante Jackson. You had an NFL defense. Yes, Lamar Jackson was incredible. But he was playing an NFL defense. You want to get good again? I mean, really good again? Take the $1.5 million you were going to put into maybe the next Lamar Jackson and go put it into the line of scrimmage. Because you don't need Lamar Jackson to win a national championship. Michigan won a national championship with J.J. McCarthy and a team that ran the ball a ton. They were great at the line of scrimmage. Stetson Bennett won 2 national championships. An undersized former walk-on. Why? Because the entire roster around him looked like an NFL team. I've watched Jake Coker win a national championship. Why? His roster around him was a bunch of NFL guys. Would it be awesome to have Bryce Underwood? Yes. Does it suck that he flipped? Not because he loved Michigan more than you, but because they could pay him more than you? Yes. But do you need him to win a national championship? Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, Curtis Rourke, Riley Leonard, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, a whole bunch of transfers lining up to play for a national title this year, while a bunch of 5-star, high-priced dudes aren't. Don't get it twisted. I would love to have seen Bryce Underwood in the purple and gold. He would make you better at the quarterback position long term. But you do not need Bryce Underwood to win a championship. What you need to do is go get better on both lines of scrimmage. Take the $1.5 million you had earmarked for him and go make your roster better. That's the charge to finish this 25 class and to make sure that you make waves in that first portal window coming up in January. You know we'll be here for all of it. Okay, that'll do it for us here on today's episode of Locked on LSU. If you're new, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And be sure to let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.